Chris,
Heath.
let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Hey, how are you?
Oh, you know it.
That's like when you're at the cash register
And it's like, here is your order. Enjoy your order, sir.
and you say you too. Yeah, it's an equivalent faux pas.
I'm fine. It's my birthday is in a few days.
It is. Yeah, you're about to be older than me again.
I will be. Yeah, that's how that works. I will be 25 by the time this airs.
Quarter century. That's
Yeah.
a big one.
Yeah.
Maybe not the most ideal circumstances to celebrate.
Nah, but it's fine. You know, I'm back to work as far as COVID wise,
That's good.
and I'm enjoying my time. You know, before I got back to work, I played a bunch of games and did a bunch of stuff, so I'll have that to talk about. What about you?
Oh yeah, I've been playing a lot of games, or should I say game. But we have a heavy game playing episode and a heavy news episode for you. On this episode of Mobius Tubes, this is episode 51, being recorded October 3rd, 2020. It's a new month, the spookiest of months. And to compensate for that, I have a month full of spooky games I anticipate playing.
Oh, you're doing that?
I'm doing that.
I should, that puts an idea in my head. I'll get back to you about
something to marinate on.
Yeah.
First of all, Heath, here's my appetizer for this episode. You know me, I love getting very pedantic about video game terminology.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And on my quest to become just the most knowledgeable gamer ever, I wanted to do a little research on the differences between two terms, roguelike and roguelite.
Light.
Now, those two terms, they're very similar. They differ by one letter. What's your working knowledge of the difference, Heath?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah,
I had this explained to me not too long ago. Because this is Hades you're talking about.
This is a precursor to Hades, yeah.
The super giant game. Roguelike is any game in which you are progressing through skills, getting stronger and better and harder to beat what comes against you. But if you die, you have to start back up and build your way back again.
Mm-hmm.
A roguelite, you're not necessarily picking which skills you want to specialize in. You are... Please jump in and save me.
Okay. You're kind of making it up on the fly.
No, I was on the pulse, wasn't I?
A bit, yeah.
The difference is in the way in which you progress.
I
Because
have...
each of them, if you die, it's back to square one.
Here's why this is such a pedantic thing to dive into. There's some ambiguity around the definition. I have heard that definition. So I did a deep dive into an article called A History of the Words Roguelike and Roguelite. And it's a really cool article. You should look it up for yourself. But basically, the author...
Well, who wrote it?
Oh,
How am I supposed to look it up?
I'm sure if you
Yeah, I'm sure
put
too.
quotations
Okay.
around the article title.
You give it a go, and I'll find the author.
Okay. So apparently there was, at some point in history, there was a congregation of so-called roguelike experts.
A meeting of the minds.
Yeah, they created this thing called the Berlin Interpretation.
Which is straight out of like Yalta Conference.
It sounds
of
like the
World War
Geneva
II.
Convention
Yeah.
or something. But no one was being tried for war crimes. Instead, they made a list of criteria that makes something a roguelike. Roguelikes in general, by their definition, are very closely adhering to the game Rogue, which is the first of these, which came out in the early 1980s. They list criteria that they call high-value factors, things like permadeath and random environment generation. Even a proper roguelike is supposed to be turn-based, apparently, which immediately invalidates things like Dead Cells or Hades.
Binding of Isaac.
Binding of Isaac. And then there were lower-value factors that make something a roguelike as well. Apparently, a true roguelike needs to have ASCII art graphics.
Dwarf Fortress?
Yeah, like a Dwarf Fortress
Get
looking
out of
thing.
here. That's...
So if you go by this Berlin interpretation, all the games we've been calling roguelikes for the entire duration of this podcast are actually roguelites with a T.
This is one of those cases where the original definition or descriptor is anachronistic, and I would much favor a more modern interpretation.
In the broader video game landscape, these two terms are often used as synonyms. They're interchangeable.
Okay.
But if you want to get really nerdy and technical, we should be calling them roguelites, which apparently the developers of Rogue Legacy coined that term back in 2013 or so.
Okay. That's not too long ago.
That's not too long ago. So that was the end of that history lesson. I found it educational. Hopefully you've gleaned some entertainment out of that.
Yeah, so how have you been enjoying your roguelite?
Right. Okay, so what I've been playing the past couple of weeks is Hades.
More like, Hades, a good game.
It is. So this is it's been blowing up a little bit. This is the fourth and latest game from Supergiant Games, and it's been well documented that I'm the resident Supergiant super fan.
You're their spokesperson.
On this podcast, yeah. To put my bias out there, they're probably in like my top 3 favorite game developers in the entire industry. So I love their work. This game just came out, but you could say I've been waiting for it because it's been in early access for quite some time, for going on 2 years now. It actually launched at around exactly the same time we launched this podcast. So it's had
Which is weird to think about.
It is weird. It came out at the same time the Epic Game Store launched. A whole bunch of things started back in December 2018.
We picked a good time to exist.
We did. So now it's version 1.0 is out. It's properly released. I chose that time to dive right in, and I am blown away, Heath. I am having so much fun with this game. Let's get into it.
Where to start? The plot?
Yeah, you play as Zagreus, who is the son of the titular god Hades, god of the underworld in Greece mythology.
Bad guy.
Bad dude. And initially, the core conceit of the game is you're an angsty teen trying to run away from home. You're literally just trying to escape the underworld. That's each run of this roguelite game is a new escape attempt, basically. And yeah.
Each run is.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I was told once you beat your first run, the game begins.
Okay. We will dig into that slightly.
Yeah.
Suffice to say, no spoilers, but what that person was probably alluding to was the game's plot doesn't end with your first successful escape attempt.
There's much that you don't see unless you play the game 10 times. 10 times to be specific.
I see. Gotcha. This is a game that has definitely some legs to it. There is a plethora of content that is doled out very patiently in increments. I was dozens of hours in, still finding like new enemy types, new perks, new even layers of progression to the game. Supergiant has developed this game with the intention in mind that you're going to be playing it for a long time. And I intend to. So people know kind of where I'm at. I put a lot of time in this game.
You've done like 4 runs.
I've done 28 runs. 28 runs. More than 10 of them have been successful attempts.
Okay.
But to put this game's difficulty into perspective here, I didn't get a first successful win in this game until attempt number 14. I had 13 failures in a row.
Sounds like Into the Breach.
Yeah. So it starts out pretty tough, and in true roguelite fashion, there is a lot of progression to this game. And to accommodate all that progression, it has a lot of currencies in it. No microtransactions, you don't have to worry about that. But you are collecting all sorts of things on any escape attempt, be it keys for unlocking new weapon types, darkness for giving yourself permanent character upgrades, be it health and attack damage, gemstones, which you can use to basically contract new types of rooms to be randomly generated into the pool of available rooms, like more helpful and beneficial types of rooms that'll maybe give you healing opportunities and things like that. You grab nectar, which you use in the dating sim component of this game.
Very nice. Do you also grab heat, I've heard?
Heat is this game's difficulty settings. So you can turn up the heat as it is, make it more and more difficult, which
sounds so granular.
All right. I was going to say that for later, but
save it for later.
Okay.
So the boss is Satan.
The boss is Hades.
Yeah.
Hades.
Okay.
I guess you could rightfully assume the boss of Hades would be Hades.
Okay.
Yeah. Not a big spoiler.
You've beat him tens of times.
I've beaten him more than 10 times. Yeah.
Oh, and this is fun, you say?
I'm having a blast.
Certain people who might not care about narrative-driven games are surprised to hear this, is what I'm saying.
Okay. It looks like a Supergiant game. It's isometric. This is a real-time combat action-heavy game. And it is the best game feel I've ever felt from a Supergiant game.
I've heard the spear is fun.
All 6 of the weapons are a blast. You've got everything from a bow and arrow for your like range option, your spear, which is kind of an intermediate range, and then really fast, punchy fists that are really cool, and many more. They all feel super diverse. Picking a different weapon is basically like picking an entirely different character class. It alters your playstyle that significantly.
Yeah, I was going to go and say that there are certain upgrades that make the same weapon feel completely different.
Yes, exactly. You can further diversify weapons. Even you can like make subclasses, and there's a lot to play with. On each escape attempt, you're going from, it's like a dungeon delving game. You're going from small enclosed room to small enclosed room. The objective is almost always just eliminate all enemies. Once in a while, you'll have like a survival objective, but they don't get too crazy with that. But then where the dopamine rush comes in is every time you clear a room, you get a cool choice between your rewards. There will be gates, usually 2, maybe more. It'll say, okay, do you want to go to the room on the left or the room on the right?
The room on the left is same difficulty as what you've been experiencing. And then the room on the right is super hard, right?
Yeah, it'll kind of signpost to you whether you have a boss encounter or just a regular encounter. But even more significantly, it'll post your reward you will collect by opting to go with one room over the other. So that's where all the different currencies come into play. If I go into this room, I will receive a boon from the god Poseidon. Or if I go to the other room, Zeus is my man. Because there's a whole cast of the entire pantheon of Greek gods.
Yeah.
They're all characters in their own right. They grant you their own specific benefits and perks. As you might expect, they all have like a cool stylings to them. So Zeus, he gives you all sorts of chain lightning's ability, which are good for crowd control. Athena, she's all about blocking and deflecting with her shield, so you can like ricochet projectiles back at enemies. Poseidon, he's the god of the sea. He's like pushing people. These waves, they like shove people around, so you can smack people into walls for bonus damage. They all have, it's everyone you would want to see is here. Aphrodite, Dionysus, even more. And they all have delightful personalities, too. The dialogue is amazing.
Yes, there is so much dialogue.
This is a dialogue-heavy game, which is surprising for a roguelite.
For a, whack people over the head type.
Yes, it's all voice-acted brilliantly. The game's composer is actually also the voice of the protagonist, and he does a great job. Darren Korb is, I think, his name. Oh, there's a cool kind of dilemma you're faced with. Because as you're going through any individual escape attempt, and you're choosing your rewards every room or so, there's this risk versus reward kind of mentality you have to adopt as you choose, do I want to select rewards that are going to help me on this specific escape attempt, or do I want to grab persistent rewards that won't help me win right now, but will make each of my future runs easier? For example, those keys, grabbing the key upgrades, they don't help you squat during your current run, but you grab enough of them over time, that's how you unlock all the new weapons, which you want for future runs. So there's this push and pull. How much do I want to help myself now versus later? It's a really compelling decision you have to make every time. I guess eventually, once you're like super duper late game and you've maxed all your persistent upgrades, that decision making will go away because you'll only care about winning each individual run. But for a long time, at least.
I'm a sucker for long-term games.
Exactly. Yeah, I am too. Each one is like a candy bite-sized decision you get to make. And it helps that some of the rewards actually like look like candy. It's just constant dopamine. I said the game feel is maybe at its best of any Supergiant game, which is high praise. I'm at the point where I am having trouble figuring out where I want to slot this in my personal ranking of the Supergiant games. It's a contender for number 1.
Right, because you love Pyre so much.
Transistor was my previous champion.
Okay.
Pyre number 2, Bastion number 3. I think this is going to fall either number 1 or number 2. It's also commendable that for how random these supposed perks you could pick up in any given run, by the end of each run, it's pretty astounding how much I enjoy this character build I've just constructed and how I don't want to give it up, because as soon as the run ends, I have to like construct a new one from scratch. And even though you're assembling them randomly from a whole bunch of different boons, they always work out to be fun and unique, and I don't want to stop playing as this character I've just constructed. They're that worthwhile. And I
It's
want
more like sunk cost Fun-acy.
I like that. Maybe that's the title of this episode, Sunk Cost Fun-acy. You mentioned the heats. Yeah, once again, the approach to difficulty in this game, they get super granular.
Oh, yeah.
This gets unlocked as soon as you've done your first clear of a run, but then it's like the Wild West. You can custom tailor the difficulty to like new levels of granularity. You can make more enemies appear per room, make them hit harder, make the items in Charon the Boatman's shop more expensive.
Wow.
You can put yourself on like a time limit that didn't exist before, where you have to clear each area of the game in like a 9-minute threshold, otherwise suffer consequences. You can make traps hit harder. You can even do fun things like
loading screens longer.
No. You can actually introduce new variations to those familiar boss encounters you become accustomed to, like introducing brand new content you haven't seen before. It is robust. It is amazing. So far, the highest I've cleared is Heat level 3, but you can do like Heat level 30. You can make this game impossible if you want to. And I'll end on what I think is a really commendable thing, that being Hades' approach to storytelling and narrative, and also its death mechanics. I think as Supergiant has gone along, starting with Transistor and Pyre, they've had really unique takes on dying in their games. Transistor, when your health hits 0, you don't die per se, not right away at least. You lose one of your functions, your abilities, and suddenly you've got to adapt on the fly. How do I play with red now that one of my main tools has suddenly been randomly taken away from me, which makes the game harder and more interesting than just dying and reloading. Pyre gets even more innovative. Pyre doesn't even have fail states. They're a religious basketball game where you're competing in these sports ceremonies to free your team from purgatory. And every time you reach the championship, if you can win, you free one of your teammates. But if you lose that big championship game, the story just continues. None of your teammates got freed. Instead, someone from the opposing team gets released from purgatory, and the game's plot just continues. There's no, we lost that one, let's just reload and try again. No, the game keeps continuing. And once more, I think Hades is pretty innovative in the roguelite space, such that in most roguelites, when you fail, it's kind of a very video gamey thing. Okay, we didn't quite get it that time. Reload, save, we'll give it another run. In Hades, each one of your deaths is a canonical part of the story. You resurrect back in the Lazarus pits back at the House of Hades.
I like Lazarus pits, yeah.
You interact with characters at this House of Hades, this kind of main hub area between your runs.
Like a midway kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's a chance to converse with characters you've met, get those persistent upgrades you're salivating over, and kind of advance the plot a bit. And guess what? The people you talk to there, they acknowledge the times you've successfully beaten them, because some of the bosses show up there. They acknowledge the times they've killed you. None of your fail states go unacknowledged in Hades. It's all part of the game's canon. So that's pretty cool. The fact that the House of Hades is such a joy to be in, it really lightens the blow of dying, because it's super demoralizing in most roguelites to have built up this cool character.
Oh my God, stop talking. I've spent so long in Into the Breach just to die in the Hive. Sorry, you were saying built up this character, which is not the case in Into the Breach.
You get cool mech upgrades over the course of Into the Breach run.
Yeah, but give an example of a game where you build up a character and then you get it all taken away from you? I think Slay the Spire-ish.
Sure, Slay the Spire, yeah, you built a deck, and now your deck is lost to you when you lose.
Yeah.
And you've built a cool character build in Hades, and it's lost to you when you lose, but That is alleviated because you get this cool narrative reward by talking to characters, and you also get a mechanical reward in the form of upgrading all your persistent stuff.
Yeah, had you never died, you would miss out on that stuff.
You would, which makes death almost feel like a reward in and of itself, which just, as you can clearly see by the amount of time I played this game, it's this endless loop of I'm playing, okay, I died, which is fine because I've been meaning to go talk to some characters and get some upgrades. Okay, I've gotten some cool upgrades. I kind of want to see how they work, so I might as well start another run. It's just an endless feedback loop.
And you might as well start a run on a difficulty where you die on occasion.
Right. It incentivizes you to do so because the higher you raise the heat, you get like bounties that will give you more upgrades. It is maybe my favorite roguelite I've played. I am hooked like I cannot believe. The soundtrack's pretty good.
It's built to last.
It is built to last. And its long gestation period in early access, it definitely paid dividends. This game has oodles of content.
Was this one on your publisher draft?
It was.
Dang it.
And the critics are eating it up.
No.
It was one of my first picks, yeah.
For sure.
I am loving Hades. That is all I've got to say about it for now. I plan to report back later. And it's cool. You're fighting undead and stuff, very Halloween-y. I have other October games I anticipate playing, but Hades will definitely be among them going forward. And that's all I've been playing. I anticipated coming here talking to you about how much I like Super Mario Galaxy, but I just haven't put in the time because Hades has me so thoroughly hooked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could have guessed that. Very good. Time for some stuff that I've done?
Yeah, I've talked a lot. Please jump in, Heath.
All right. Speaking of, is there a Cerberus in your game?
Oh, there is. You can pet him.
Well, speaking of dogs, does the Cerberus, how many heads does the Cerberus have?
He has 3.
Okay, well, this dog only has 2 because it's Watch Dogs 2, everybody. I played a few hours of Watch Dogs 2, and I'm never going back.
Oh, snap.
No. It was trash. I beat Watch Dogs 1.
You beat Watch Dogs 1?
Yeah, I did.
You saw Aiden Pierce's story to the end?
Oh, and edge of my seat the whole time.
When did you play Watch Dogs 1?
Aiden Pierce is the name of his character, right?
Yeah.
Who is universally panned as like the lamest protagonist in history.
Dry and like edgy and broody.
Just angry, vengeance, but not in a fun way, like a Mad Max way.
Right.
So one note.
Isn't he getting revenge for the
boring.
murder of his niece?
Oh, his daughter or niece or somebody.
I don't even think it's his daughter.
Died in a car accident that he was responsible for, and then the whole game is just anger and stuff.
All right, that's Watch Dogs 1. You should tell me about Marcus in Watch Dogs 2.
Yeah, Watch Dogs 2. Marcus is a young adult teen tech whiz.
Okay.
Who is using his cybersecurity know-how to hijack the Hollywood Knight Rider race car and prank the Martin Shkreli stand-in. And he's with DeadSec, and they're here to stick it to the Big Brother tech overlords at CTOS.
The tech elite.
In sunny San Francisco. Or San Diego?
Oh, yeah.
Who cares? Who cares? I'm talking about Watch Dogs 2 in 2020. This is an awful game.
Awful.
That pretends to be a fun sci-fi stealth game.
And this is an open world Ubisoft game.
Yeah.
Which you don't necessarily have the best track record of liking.
I don't. Open world games can be fun.
Yeah.
The driving is not too bad. Although, I will say, one of the first times you get in a car, you'll notice you can still use your phone and hijack certain things like stoplights or bridges to go up and down, and you can rob people's bank accounts online. And so it gives you something to do. It's kind of fun. You're driving around and you hold left bumper, because I was on controller. But the interesting thing was In this game, you can upgrade your hacking skills, your shooting skills, and your driving skills. I upgraded my driving skill, and now I can no longer hack people's bank accounts from behind the wheel.
What?
Yeah, it's the controls of this game, and this is my segue into it, abysmal.
Really?
Yeah, if you try to pause in Watch Dogs 2, you pull up your phone. So I'll be taking bullets and try to pause to figure out what I need to do. And all it'll do is it'll open your smartphone, which takes up the right side of the screen, does not freeze time. And then you have to tab over to the settings app.
Oh.
I think, which pauses the game. And it's like a traditional like menu, quit, save out, options. The weapon wheel and the gear was mapped to the D-pad. So if you're holding down one of the bumpers, you can choose either your sleepy pistol or your kill pistol. But if you don't hold down the bumper and you press left or right on the D-pad, you'll put down your little RC car or your drone. And so I will try to switch weapons in a firefight, and you'll watch Marcus sit down, crisscross applesauce, reach into his bag for his little RC car. Meanwhile, I'm getting hit with bullets that hurt. And then I'll realize the error of my ways, try to put the RC car back, wait for that animation. And by the time I get my actual gun out, I'm dead. The user experience is dreadful.
Huh.
And like I said, with the driving, I used to be hacking people as I was making my right-hand turns. Now, with my new driving upgrade, it allows me to maybe make this police car turn left suddenly and
Oh, yeah.
stop the pursuit.
Yeah.
But that's at the cost of one of the fun new things that I was enjoying on my joyrides.
That almost sounds like a bug or something.
I'm just saying that the control scheme in this game, because it's also like you need to hold right trigger to do free run. What is free running in Ubisoft games?
Oh, that's a very Assassin's Creed concept where your character who's moving forward is just automatically going to like parkour over barriers or dodge obstacles and things like that.
Yeah, so that's the same way here. It would be so frustrating how I could leap off of railings or hop a fence, but I can't get atop of some sort of vantage point that would aid me in such a way. And also, like I'm saying, it's not a stealth game. It's a third-person shooter that has guards that don't see you until they do. And it's not the sort of like attention to detail that even I've trashed on them. IOI, the Hitman people.
Oh, yeah. IO Interactive.
Yeah. If you get spotted in Hitman, the only guard who will know your exact whereabouts is the one that sees you.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like in Watch Dogs 2, if a guard sees you, another guard from across the map automatically knows every pore on your body.
All the cops have a shared consciousness in Watch Dogs 2.
Might as well be, unless I'm wrong. Where I stopped playing the game was the assault on the Scientology church base.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Well, that's another thing. All of these missions are really dated. Like I said, the
Okay.
Martin Shkreli thing, it's all of these mid-2010s references.
Yeah, it seems a little quaint now. I think it came out like right before the 2016 presidential election.
Yeah, that too.
So it has none of that context.
It's pretty Ever Brown.
Ever Brown.
Yeah. What did I say? So the pause has been replaced with the phone. You got to migrate over. Guards will shoot at your direction despite not having a visual. There's lots of surveillance options. You can hack into security cameras and see where all the guards are. No way to hide bodies. So that's what also led me to like getting detected and then having then you're blowing away guys with your like real pistol.
Right.
But the mission, as far as the mission goes, you did it stealthily.
Huh.
So you're high-fiving your teammates. Yeah, go DedSec after having a body count that would absolutely get you national news. And so the ludonarrative dissonance in this game is shattering.
I actually heard that same criticism around the time the game came out.
I did not imagine it would be as bad as they said.
Some reviewers, now the game doesn't encourage you to do this necessarily, but some people were saying they enjoyed the game more when they forced themselves to play it non-lethally.
I was trying to.
Okay.
That's why I installed this game, was because I thought it would be like a fun, high-tech stealth romp.
Gotcha. But the game just pushes guns in your face.
The controls are tricky to use. The stealth options are limited. And I considered Watch Dogs 2 empty gigabytes.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Would not recommend it. I would recommend you play Hades, not this.
I've never touched the Watch Dogs franchise, but from what I've seen, it doesn't really look all that tantalizing.
Appealing.
Yeah.
The next game I played, Extraordinary.
Oh, okay. That's quite the departure.
Rocket League, a game that also has driving, but not very dissimilar.
Now, have you never touched Rocket League
Never
before
touched
now?
it.
Whoa.
Yeah, Rocket
okay.
League. I am a 2020, which is interesting, right? Because in the current state of Rocket League, now that it's free to play, had you played it in the 2010s, it would say underneath your name, established, and then a year, like you would a store or something like that. So this is my first time touching it. The learning curve is not too steep. Here are some words of wisdom from first-time Rocket League player Heath. Nothing ever good happened on a wall. Demolitions are for cowards. So, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, Rocket League, for those who don't know, is car soccer. You can boost into the ball midair if you get really good. How good are you? Did you do any ranked play?
Probably not.
Just casual play?
Probably mostly casual. Yeah. So you are controlling the car in Rocket League, and you're on the field as if you were playing soccer.
It's 3v3 for the most part.
That's like the standard mode.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I am definitely a Rocket League novice. I put in maybe like 20 something hours, but it's funny you say learning curve is not too steep, and it's not. You can definitely dive right in, but learning
skill ceiling
is sky high, because when it comes to like aerial maneuvers and using your rockets to like change your trajectory in the middle of the air, that is tricky business.
It's a necessity once you get into
high level play. Yeah.
Yeah. So the ranked play is locked. You have to get to level 10 to unlock it.
Okay.
And so all the while I was learning how to play, and once you get over that learning curve, it feels so good. Like I said, many fist bumps and slapping of table, and the matchmaking is great. So if you only have 2 players on your team, the game will put in an AI car to mostly do defense while it searches for another human player to fill in. And what happens is you'll be looking for matches, and then it'll be like, all right, you ready? 3, 2, 1. Suddenly it'll hand over control of the AI car that was previously in the match over to you, just wherever it happened to be on the field. And that's pretty good. It's pretty smooth. Like I said, when I get into ranked play, all the fun I was having was gone.
Oh, yeah?
Because, like you said, aerial navigation, maneuverability is a necessity once you get into ranked. I didn't progress past bronze at all. I was struggling. Okay, so you earn experience points by scoring goals or defending goals. Demolitions, which is when you use the speed boost you would to like get up in the air to kamikaze into your opponent.
Yeah.
And have them respawn. I could not touch the ball in
you
ranked
never got
play.
Contact.
People would beat me to it, or it would be going so fast that I would miss it. And if you do not earn experience points in ranked play, or excuse me, if you don't like earn enough in-game points, it will not award you with participatory experience points.
Oh.
So I was not leveling up because the game basically thought that I was AFK.
Because your impact on the match was so minimal.
I was a good game of Rocket League will get you anywhere from like 200 to 500 points.
Right.
I was hitting double digits, like low single to double digits.
Okay.
Because I just couldn't.
Wow.
I couldn't even touch it. It was everyone was playing in the sky.
You could say they were playing on a different Rocket League.
Hey, very nice. Yeah. So that was my experience.
Now, it's been years since I've touched Rocket League. Were there any, like, when I was playing, were there any quirky, temporary, seasonal game modes? Like, I've played Rocket League hockey, where they replace the ball with a puck.
I've also seen the basketball
Okay.
variety.
So they still have those fun offshoot modes?
I don't know. I didn't.
Oh, you didn't touch
bother.
them?
No. As soon as I saw like ranked play locked, that was my mission. And then once I learned I couldn't hang out with the big boys, I've
Cut and run.
I dipped.
But you are right. The way it feels to control that car, the mechanics of turning and driving, they feel amazing. Unfortunately, the English language just isn't quite sophisticated enough to clearly communicate why that is. But same for Hades, same for Rocket League. These games are a pleasure to play.
Yeah, and they prepare you sufficiently. I was having a hard time setting up hits in the air. So I queued up the training mode.
Yeah.
And boomer alert, everybody who's listening, the training mode actually helped me work with the
I too have played the training
scoring
mode.
and defending, and yeah. So surely there's some Zoomers out there that are like, what do you mean? Just get good, scrub. But that's all I had to say about Rocket League.
Will you continue to play it, albeit casually?
Yeah. I mean, that's a sort of game where there's no more goals to achieve.
Yeah,
other than cosmetics that I'm not going to spend money on.
You're just playing for the intrinsic pleasure of having fun.
Yeah.
And matches are 5 minutes or less, right? These are very, very fast.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet. I'm glad you finally got to experience Rocket League.
Yeah.
It's a great game.
The fondest memories, though, are when you get good enough that you see another newcomer make a bad play, and you're just like, what are you doing? And not as if that was not you 5 hours ago.
Sure.
So I enjoyed that.
Everyone starts from somewhere.
Yeah.
All right. That was a pretty packed week of games.
All right. You want me to talk about my nonsense now?
So you sent me your docket. There were like 2 to 3 bullets. I had no idea what you were even talking about.
Yeah, you got no idea.
So why don't you hit me? This is non-news related, right?
No.
Then we should do it now. Yeah. Hit me with Heath's nonsense.
All right. First thing with Heath's nonsense is, folks, this is a new segment called Date Ideas from Heath. Now, I have a girlfriend, and I like to entertain her, be it through fun quizzes or scavenger hunts. And here is an idea that I had that is video game themed, so it fits this show. It was IRL Animal Crossing.
Oh.
And Chris knows about this. You know, Bailey and I, during the height of the pandemic, we played Animal Crossing as a means of just spending time together.
Sure.
So she was familiar enough to enjoy what I had prepared. And this has a varying degree of effort you need to put in. But if you have a significant other that is jointly familiar with Animal Crossing, the first thing you do when you play Animal Crossing is check your mailbox, because you'll get letters from villagers or Tom Nook or what have you. So just print out some letters that appear in the game and find the font that they used in the game. I forget what it is.
Does it have a fun name?
No, I'm just going to make sure that I shout it out, though. FOT Surat Pro N. Surat spelled SEURAT. And write some fun letters that only your significant other would be like, ha ha ha. After she checks her mailbox, another thing that she might want to do is go catch butterflies, because that's an integral part.
Right.
So what you do is you print out little butterflies that would appear in the game, and you just tape them to a ceiling fan, and you put it on low. And then I didn't have a net, but it was just fun enough to try to catch them with one hand. And all the while, during this date, you want to hand out Nook Miles. And what are Nook Miles, Chris? The main currency in Animal Crossing is bells. Like if you go to the store and get something, will cost bells.
Yeah.
Nook Miles are sort of like the achievements. If you catch 50 butterflies or if you upgrade your house, you'll earn Nook Miles. What you want to do throughout the entire date is think of as many specific Nook Miles achievements as you can. And each Nook Mile will give you, each of the main achievements will give you a descriptor that you can then put on your passport. So I think if you catch like tons of fish, you'll be like adept ichthyologist or something like that. So you just want to come up with quirky descriptors that are related to the activity that they're doing.
Right.
So do that for the butterfly thing. Do that for any DIY recipes. If your significant other is crafty in any way, just come up with like a DIY recipe for and insert like any crafty thing. And then just have the materials to make it, be it like a planter or like a birdhouse, or who cares? And give them Nook Miles for that. What else did I have? Oh, another thing. On Animal Crossing, you will come across these presents that are suspended by a balloon. And if you have a slingshot in your inventory, you can shoot it down and open it up, and it's another piece of furniture or whatever. Depending on how your budget for this, go to the store and get helium balloons. Tie a small cardboard box, or just do paper, and do like the classic red ribbon around them. And just that's just a fun way of like giving a small gift. But don't give it to them if they can't shoot it down with a slingshot. You got to try to find a slingshot, or just like throw pennies at it or something. That part I hadn't thought through yet. Or just print out a balloon present suspended rig and tape that to the wall, and they got to hit it with a slingshot so it's like a stationary target in case we have somebody's with accessibility issues. Look at me, I'm so well-rounded. Next thing.
Now, Heath, have you not put this idea into practice yet?
No, I did the mail, the butterflies, and the DIY recipe, but
as separate instances?
No, that was
okay.
That was like the get together.
But you have unused ideas as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking of more stuff to do.
Okay.
Another thing, if you really, really want to crank it up, have a Nook Miles, because it'll tell you what to do to earn Nook Miles, like chop down a tree or talk to 3 villagers. If you really want to go hard, have a Nook Miles Plus option to chat with 3 villagers and either go to a petting zoo, and that's like, it's like a fun way of integrating that, or come home with a pet, because Bailey recently got a kitten.
Yeah.
So if I came home with that kitten and was like, chat with villagers, granted, as soon as an animal enters the picture, your Animal Crossing bit is going to
evaporate
because they'll be immediately obsessed with whatever living, breathing animal is in the vicinity. But that's like a fun way of presenting it, if in case you already had plans to get a pet. Okay, so that's it.
Pretty good, Heath. If I may, I have one suggestion of my own.
Oh, what? What?
You said this idea could vary somewhat depending on your budget. I think it would be very thematically appropriate if you were to consider going into debt to make this a reality.
Even more thematic, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, engaging in a huge loan that you'd have to pay back.
Right. Nothing says Animal Crossing like indentured servitude.
Yeah, so that's my date idea. Let me know if it works out, if you end up getting married years from now, or any changes that you would make. The reason this worked out with me and Bailey is because she doesn't care about Animal Crossing anymore. That was just like something to pass the time during the pandemic. And so when I pulled her aside, I was like, hey, let's play Animal Crossing. And she was kind of like, what? Because that's super underwhelming.
That's old news.
It's super underwhelming until you see all the effort that I put into it. And that's why you win with this, is because they're not expecting the ceiling fan butterflies or the DIY crafties.
Well, Heath, that was a fun idea. Thanks for sharing it with the listeners.
Yep. Moving on to next Heath's nonsense.
Okay.
We watched Thelma and Louise.
I looked this up. This is a movie from the 90s?
Yeah, 91?
Okay, early 90s.
I think.
I'm not familiar with this film whatsoever.
Okay. I first watched it in college.
Okay.
Because I had a media major. So we had to do film history. And during that class, I watched like Citizen Kane. I think it was Red River or Old River or both. And I watched Bonnie and Clyde. You're familiar with both Bonnie and Clyde and Thelma and Louise, right? As far as like phrases.
I know Bonnie and Clyde.
Okay.
Thelma and Louise.
You've never heard of Thelma and Louise?
Never heard those two names uttered together.
Okay, because Bailey was like, oh, that's an old movie too, thinking it was Bonnie and Clyde, which came out of the 60s.
Oh, okay.
Thelma and Louise is a girl road trip movie, which actually was Brad Pitt's breakout role.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a hot beefcake.
Gotcha.
That movie launched his stardom. I'm convinced Thelma and Louise is a perfect movie.
Whoa.
It's probably as close to perfect as you can get.
Now, when you say perfect, is this something you're like, oh, I appreciate what was done here, but it's not exactly to your taste? Or do you like love this movie?
I think that the performances are great. The pacing is great. The blocking is great. The like screen adaptation is great. And the message is great. Because it's the whole point. And this is an old movie that you're not going to see unless, so I'm going to spoil it.
Wait, what if people want to seek it out after your big recommendation?
Okay, fine.
You just called this movie perfect.
Well, it's perfect. It's like the gold standard, I would say. This is not like, Heath, what's your favorite movie? Because that's probably still Dark Knight.
Okay.
And other Christopher Nolan funsies. But as far as like a movie that you should look to as being so well defined from the highs and the lows, Thelma and Louise is amazing. So that's all I'll say about it in case people want to take a look.
Okay.
Next thing, what was my next nonsense?
Is it this Phasmophobia thing?
Oh, you want to talk about Phasmophobia?
I don't know what Phasmophobia is.
Phasmophobia is a VR game. It's VR Ghost Hunters. You put on your Oculus, and you're like History Channel Ghost Hunters, which my dad turns on occasion, right?
Uh-huh.
So you have this house or this like old laboratory or whatever, and you got to go in and in search of paranormal activity, and you'll have sensors and a photo camera and a thermometer. Your gear will cost money, and you can earn more money by getting photos of the ghosts, documenting writing on the walls from the ethereal plane. And it's a lot of fun because it's VR, so it's your point of view.
Right.
I was watching XQC and Soda Pop and play it on Twitch, and it was pretty fun because you go in with your journal, and it's kind of like Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, the bomb defusal game, where you have a notebook on how to solve the puzzles, basically.
Okay.
And so you'll go into the haunted area, and you'll see, all right, we got freezing breath, we got disembodied voices of like children playing, and we got writing on the walls. Oh, it's a Demogorgon. Okay, how do we proceed? You know, or oh, it's a wraith. It's a Babadook. It's a demon. Yeah,
it's almost sounding witchery at this point.
There's tons of different paranormal entities, and you got to figure out who it is as fast as you can, adapt to the play style, and try to get out of there alive.
I see. Is it actually like pretty tense and scary when you're in the thick of the action?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And is this Phasmophobia game, is it a brand new game? Is that why it's coming up here now?
If it's not brand new, I can't find anything about it. There's no Wikipedia page. There's like only there's like one Metacritic entry and then the Steam page.
Okay.
I think it's on Steam. It's you talk about it being tense. So everybody's on comms, right? And I think there's like local chat and stuff. If the ghost gets very close, your sensors will go off the charts and you'll lose comms.
Comms being
close enough to kill you, yeah.
How clear you can communicate?
No, whether or not you can communicate.
Okay.
Your voice chat will get cut off.
That's pretty cool.
If the ghost is like in the room with you. And also, you are given the name of the ghost and it recognizes your speech. So you'll say something like, Mary Moore, turn on the lights. And it'll sometimes do it. It takes that into account with how to, whether or not you say the name of the ghost affects the behavior.
Gotcha.
So it's very like, play this in a dark room alone with friends who also have VRs.
This sounds pretty experimental, pretty innovative, and it is the perfect time of year to be playing this kind of game.
It's wild, yeah. So that's Phasmophobia. I kept getting it confused with Phantasmagoria, which is also a game.
Excuse me?
Yeah, Phantasmagoria.
I'm familiar with Gorogoa, but not
Phantasmagoria means a sequence of real or imaginary images like those seen in a dream. So that's a new word for you. This game came out in 95. Same as me. It looks like a live action something.
Oh yeah, full motion video.
That's weird. It's a point and click adventure horror game from 95.
Okay, maybe a bit like Night Trap or something like that.
Sort of like that. Anyway, that's another game that I watched, and that is it.
Well, that was a lot of games. That was a lot of nonsense. What say we take a break? And when we come back, we have maybe more news than we've ever had to cover before.
Yeah.
We'll see you then. And we're back. Hey, Heath.
Hey, which billionaire corporation you want to talk about first?
I'd say we should probably lead with the largest.
Amazon? No. It depends on who you ask.
I was saying largest in terms of relevance, maybe.
Okay.
Newsworthiness.
Microsoft.
Yeah. So the headline here is Microsoft purchased Zenimax Media, the parent company of the video game publisher Bethesda. Heath, I don't think this is hyperbole to say this is quite potentially
The biggest video game acquisition ever.
Actually, it's the second biggest. I was going to say this is the biggest news story in video games that has happened over the past several years. I think this is gigantic.
Yeah, it's big. Price tag wise.
Yeah, so $7.5 billion to purchase Zenimax Media.
What's even worth that much? Why would you spend that much money?
It is a lot. Maybe they overpaid. So to put that in perspective, that is the equivalent of Microsoft purchased Mojang back in 2014. Zenimax Media was the equivalent of 3 Minecrafts, basically. Minecraft is the best-selling game in the world.
Yeah.
And this was 3 times the cost. They only paid $2.5 billion for Minecraft. This is more expensive than Disney purchasing Star Wars. What other big purchases have there been?
That was a big one. You named it.
This is gargantuan in size.
They paid George Lucas $4 billion?
Okay, gotcha.
I think.
There was one video game purchase that was bigger than this one. It was, of course, a Tencent related one. I don't know it offhand.
Oh.
It's not the kind of areas we usually touch on this show, which is why I'm kind of not very knowledgeable about it. Okay. And it was only a little bit higher. It was like Tencent purchased something for $8 billion. Mm-hmm. I think it might have been like a mobile company or something like that.
That would make sense because they turn a huge profit.
Right. I digress. Yeah. Back to Zenimax.
More importantly, you're buying an Xbox Series whatever now.
So what did Microsoft get with that hefty price tag there? They got a lot. They just brought in 8 new first-party studios. Heath, do you know what they are?
They brought in Obsidian. They've already had Obsidian.
They've had Obsidian. Not part of this deal.
They brought in.
How many can you name?
They brought in
Can you not name any?
I know the name of it. It's sorry.
So they bought Bethesda Game Studios proper. They make Elder Scrolls, Fallout, the big boys. They bought Chris' favorite Arcane Studios. That's Dishonored and Prey and the upcoming Deathloop. They have id Software, which are the Doom and Quake guys. Mm-hmm. They have Machine Games, who make the Wolfenstein reboots. They have Tango Gameworks. Those are the creepy Evil Within and the upcoming Ghostwire Tokyo, so horror games. They have ZeniMax Online Studios, who have very quietly and successfully been running the Elder Scrolls Online, that MMO version of the Elder Scrolls. And then that leaves us with 2 smaller studios who I am not very familiar with. I think they're mostly support teams. One is called Alpha Dog, and the other is called Roundhouse. But in total, Microsoft just acquired 8 new video game studios, bringing the first-party roster of Microsoft-owned studios up to a staggering 23. Bethesda is basically a third of their portfolio now, which is massive. To put this in a little bit of context, Microsoft now has more first-party studios than even Sony, who by my count has somewhere between 13 to 16.
Ooh, let's name our favorites. Who made Infamous?
That is Sucker Punch.
Thank you.
Ghost of Tsushima guys.
Yep.
I mean, the big ones are Naughty Dog, Insomniac,
okay.
Santa Monica, Sucker Punch, like you said. They've also got their Japan studio.
So, Microsoft
yes,
has a history of doing this.
They have been on an acquisition spree the past few
Right
years.
before they launch a new console, they buy $1 billion developer.
Are you referencing Minecraft there?
They've done it with before the Xbox One came out, they bought Minecraft, right?
Minecraft was a little after.
A little after. They bought Rare.
Okay.
Remember?
When did that acquisition go down?
Like around the same time as the console launch.
Of the Xbox One?
Right? Right? When did they do it?
No. That's got to be like Xbox 360 era or earlier. Microsoft has had Rare for a long time. That article's from 2002.
Yeah, back in 2002.
So shortly following the original Xbox.
I guess so.
By a year. As you were saying, Heath, super shrewd move. The day before the next generation of Xbox consoles went live for pre-order, they announced this bombshell of a news story, which is quite a tantalizing proposition if you're about to pick a console to pre-order. Oh, Microsoft suddenly owns all of Bethesda. Maybe I go with that one. How do you feel about, what are your emotions telling you about this giant acquisition, Heath?
I mean, I had no idea that Microsoft's liquidity was so big, right?
Sure. Microsoft has this deal went down in cash. So Microsoft has a lot of money they could just move around.
Or wait, excuse me. You asked me how I felt.
Yeah.
So I was mostly surprised.
Yeah. Surprise is a good word. I didn't even realize Bethesda was up for sale, but I guess if the amount of money is high enough, anything can be up for sale.
I'm up for sale.
Right.
For $7.5 billion.
Sure.
Do you know how many EDAR PDFs we could buy with 1 million, right? How did you feel about this?
I'm of mixed thoughts. First, I'm getting a little hesitant to just see the video game industry further and further consolidated.
It's a monolith.
The word that was coming to my mind was monopoly. It's a little scary to have Microsoft shepherding so many studios. Lately, it seems like they've been giving them the autonomy to do their own things, which is good. But
Game Pass is so valuable.
Yeah. So let's talk about the value proposition of Game Pass, because they announced day and date with this that all former Bethesda games are now being lumped into Game Pass free of charge. And since all future Bethesda games are going to be first-party Microsoft games, they will be arriving on day one, launch day, on Game Pass for free, which is an incredible value.
It's tremendous.
It is tremendous.
Sorry, you said for free. You mean like as part of the subscription?
Yes, at no additional cost to your subscription. Which means when Xbox owners go to play The Elder Scrolls 6, Fallout 5, Starfield, all of those they will be getting on the cheap, which when it comes to picking which console you're going to go with next generation, that's a pretty
tantalizing offer.
Yeah, it is. There are big question marks around what this means for PlayStation. Maybe you've heard Phil Spencer says whether these games come to other platforms will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. That's the quote.
Well, did you hear about Yakuza?
No. What happened about Yakuza?
Like a Dragon is coming out, right?
Yeah.
It's coming out for PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Xbox Series S and X.
But not
PS5.
PS5? Ooh.
It's coming out for PlayStation 4. But Microsoft's like, we don't care about your old shit. It's not coming out on PS5, though.
I'm sure it will,
which is weird.
At a later date. But that's not a part of the Bethesda deal.
No, but in the context of
exclusivity.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So the case-by-case basis statement could mean one of two things. Either they plan on varying it up. Some games will come and some won't. And they want to just literally evaluate on a case-by-case basis. Or it could just mean they literally haven't made up their mind yet. They don't want to commit to anything yet. They're keeping their options open if they just don't make any promises this early. Do you have predictions, Heath? Will we see Elder Scrolls 6 on PlayStation? Or is this going to be a feather in the cap of exclusively Microsoft platforms?
If we do see Skyrim 2 on the PlayStation, what a ripoff that $1 billion deal was.
Oh.
Microsoft would have paid way too much for next to nothing.
You say that, but presumably the PlayStation audience is going to have a big install base. They could sell it to all of them.
Oh, right. They stand to make a huge profit.
There's two lines of thinking here. Yeah.
Oh, then put it on the PlayStation.
you just totally flip
At
flop.
180, like nothing, nobody's business.
There's a lot of money to be made if they sell it to the PlayStation people, but if they keep it on Xbox, maybe they get a lot of more Xbox fans. There's a couple directions they could take this in. I think a lot of them are appealing from Microsoft's perspective. Hey, what if they put these games on PlayStation a la carte, but then there's some really good optics in Microsoft's favor. Hey, if you have an Xbox, guess what? You get Elder Scrolls 6 for free on Game Pass. Or if you're a sucker, I guess you could pay us $70 on PlayStation and play it there. That value proposition has quite the disparity there. And they don't totally piss people off because they are still porting it to that platform. So you have an option to get it if you're a PlayStation owner. That could be very good for them. They could take the hardline approach, just keep it totally exclusive. If I take them at face value when they say case-by-case basis, there's some interesting mental calculus when they decide, like, which games do they keep exclusive versus others. I almost wonder, the
heavy hitters.
The heavy hitters, are those best served as exclusives because that could actually convince someone to jump ship? Or are they best served porting those because
they're guaranteed to make big
much
dollar?
I don't know what the business decision is on that. I could see it going either way.
We should ask Todd Howard and Phil Spencer.
I guess we should pick their brains. This is massive. It leads to a very funny, ironic twist of fate right now where the upcoming Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo are being published by Microsoft exclusively on PlayStation because those deals were set in stone.
Yeah, and they're honoring it, which is cool.
I assume there's no way for them to contractually not honor it.
Yeah, phrase that in a way for us non-video game players to make sense. That's like Google manufacturing an iPhone.
Right. That's like Google has this new AI assistant and they're publishing it exclusively on iPhones.
Yeah.
So that'll quickly, once those two deals have expired, that'll never happen again. The precedent exists for the Minecraft acquisition. That continued to be ported to every platform.
Well, and it made
a lot of money.
More.
So that kind of makes me suspect for the big heavy hitters, Starfield, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, they'll probably appear everywhere.
Imagine that Skyrim 1 ended up on every platform, but Skyrim 2 is relegated to just the series.
Sure. This is going to have big implications going forward. I wonder how many more acquisitions Microsoft is eyeing.
They can afford it.
They can afford it in a way that Sony just doesn't quite have the liquidity to do.
Unless they sell Spider-Man.
Which I don't think they would.
No. Marvel would probably pay them at least $1 billion for Spider-Man.
Sure.
But
they need 6 more
that's a drop
if they
in the ocean, yeah.
I've heard rumors circulating, hey, maybe Capcom's up for sale. They're probably even smaller than Bethesda.
Ooh.
But honestly, I don't want to see even more studios gobbled up by Microsoft. Don't they have enough at this point?
Don't they have enough?
Like, here's the thing, Heath. They have 23 studios. If we assume the average game development cycle is about 4 years, 23 divided by 4 is rounding up about 6 Microsoft first-party games per year releasing. That's a new Microsoft game every 2 months.
That's fun.
None of the other platform holders have that kind of aggressive release schedule. That's almost like too much to manage.
Is it unsustainable?
Let's see if they can like healthily sustain this many studios before they gobble up any more. That would be what I want to see. But that's all about all the thoughts I had about the Microsoft Zenimax Media acquisition. I think that's all you had too.
Yep.
So, what should we talk about next?
Well, we mentioned Minecraft at least once.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Perfect segue. Take it away, Heath.
Da, 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 da. Okay. I didn't see this coming. I thought it was a pipe dream.
What's the headline, Heath?
Oh,
fill me in.
Steve is in Smash.
Steve,
now, when I say Steve, who am I referring to?
Well, my mind goes to my uncle.
Your mind goes to your uncle. On paper, it means nothing, but it means so much more. Minecraft has come to Super Smash Bros., further cementing that Smash Bros. Ultimate is probably... What was the game of the decade last year? Minecraft, right?
That's definitely a contender, definitely.
Well,
in the conversation.
Smash Ultimate, this is such a milestone in video game history, and Steve's addition furthers that point. His gameplay is fun. He does his animations are still like his crouching animation. Doesn't he still just bend at the hips like in Minecraft, and it's all item based, and he can use like pistons to push characters, and it's very creative.
And you can swap him out with other Minecraft characters in like a skin-based format with like the zombie and the Enderman.
Super. Yeah. I'm glad that they went with a character as out there as Steve from Minecraft.
Maybe I'm alone in thinking this. This didn't super shock me. I mean, Nintendo and Microsoft have already proven they could collaborate to get Banjo-Kazooie into Smash. Why not get another Microsoft character in there, that being Minecraft Steve? It didn't seem totally out of left field to me.
I mean, forgive me. We're on the heels of Min Min and Byleth.
I mean, I was hyped for Byleth.
So I thought we were going to get more super lame characters.
More like C-tier characters.
Yeah.
No. I mean, you got to sprinkle the C-tier characters in there, but you also need to pepper in your bangers.
I just hope that for the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Edition. Are you familiar with the localization in Japan? In Japan, it's called Super Smash Bros. Special.
Okay.
And I think if they were to sell a copy with all of the DLC characters bundled in, it would be, in Japan, it would be called Super Smash Bros. Special Ultimate Edition. For us, it would be Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Special Edition. I just like that. Anyway, I'm very much looking forward to that special edition with all of these cool characters on the box art. I want to see Mario, Steve from Minecraft, Joker, Ridley, just all like a crazy assortment.
Is this the most ambitious crossover in media history now?
In media history? You know what my mind went to as a joke answer was Travis Scott and McDonald's, but because you've seen those ads. No, it's not the most biggest crossover in media history.
Who beats it?
Oh, you're gonna put me on the spot. Surely I've mentioned it already on the show. Don't put me on the spot with something like that.
Okay, fine. I'll concede there could be more ambitious contenders. I watched part of the stream of this announcement.
Oh, you did?
The game's developer, Sakurai, he gave his very in-depth breakdown, as he's known to do, on new characters. Towards the end of that presentation, he gets kind of salty. He kind of complains about how Nintendo higher-ups kind of dictated to him he must include this character, and he tried to push back and say, I don't really want Steve in Smash, but they made him do it anyway. Kind of funny to see such candor trying to market like, ooh, new exciting characters when you're the creator of the game is advocating that he didn't want to do it.
That's funny.
So Sakurai, he's such a golden boy at Nintendo. I guess he can just say whatever the hell he wants.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're not going to pull a Konami on him.
No.
He didn't want him in Smash. Well, who does he want then? Another sword character?
I mean, Minecraft Steve has a sword.
That's okay. We got to end it there. That was perfect.
Okay.
On to Amazon.
Amazon. Okay. We're talking about Luna, are we not?
Luna, the Stadia killer.
The Stadia killer?
Even though Stadia died of its natural causes.
You want to talk about this? I was going to skip this entirely.
Oh, really? Okay, very quick. Amazon's coming at the video game streaming service market with this controller, and it's gonna, have the video games arranged in channels. So like you could pay a subscription for the Ubisoft channel and play and stream all of their games, and the EA channel and the Activision Blizzard channel. And that's just like a really weird model for streaming your video game entertainment, because surely you'll do that for like a month and play all of the Assassin's Creeds, and then you'll switch and you'll end that subscription and then go play all of the Call of Duties. Granted, who is this for that hasn't already been put off by the Stadia? That remains to be seen. And that's partly why you wanted to skip it, right? Is because it's just another tech company thinking they can strong arm their place in the video game landscape.
Sure. Yeah, we spent so much time talking about Stadia, and then it basically launched dead on arrival. My confidence
Which is why
level,
you're reluctant to go into detail about the Luna.
My confidence level on Amazon launching a new cloud-based streaming video game platform is even lower than that of Google's.
Right.
Although the model seems a little bit less predatory in pricing. I did a cursory glance. It seemed like their monthly subscription rate was like $6 a month. Maybe that's only for like one individual channel, because I wasn't aware of this channel approach. But that seems whole lot better than Google's a la carte purchase entire games wholesale approach. Maybe this is more consumer friendly. Maybe it gets a little more traction. But if Stadia was anything to go by, I'm not holding my breath.
Here's the thing, right? The whole point of video game streaming is about latency.
That's like the kiss of death.
Amazon owns Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Twitch is not low latency. It's seconds of delay.
Sure,
if you're watching your favorite streamer.
But maybe they don't prioritize that.
Are they putting that much more bandwidth into this service?
Yeah, I guess I don't know.
They would have to.
They would have to.
And that's why can't you put that into Twitch?
Sure.
Twitch is like their most popular thing, other than their store being Amazon.
Yeah. And then this also has Microsoft's xCloud to compete with. That extra feature lumped in with Game Pass Ultimate, Microsoft streaming service. That might be the best video game streaming value right now, which Stadia didn't have to compete with when it launched.
Right.
So it's a more competitive landscape. That's not even mentioning PlayStation Now, which still exists. I don't think this will make waves whatsoever.
Okay. Then, like conspiracy theorists, we will pretend that Luna does not exist. That was a moon.
Oh, that was a moon landing hoax joke?
Yeah.
Okay.
And move on to. Oh, is that all the news I got? Yeah, you want to talk about Among Us too? I mean, you don't. I ought to do it before game night starts in like an hour. Chris.
Hey.
Your favorite game of next year has been canceled.
Oh, no. Deathloop's no longer arriving?
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. No, Among Us 2.
Oh, who cares?
Among Us 2 is the social stealth deduction. Sorry. What am I?
Stealthy social deduction game?
The word deduction and stealth evaded me. Why did it get canceled, Chris?
I haven't read the headline, but my assumption would be the developers of Among Us and that game's meteoric success this year have realized, hey, we've got a good thing going right here. What if we just make this original game its own games as a service platform and keep supporting that instead of dividing the audience with a sequel?
Right. Yes, they are putting all of the stuff they were going to make for the sequel, including like a new map, new cosmetics, new gameplay features. They're just putting that in the original. And my God, Chris, I am the only one in our friend group that has yet to play it.
I haven't played it, to be fair.
My girlfriend's mom wants to play it.
You got out in front of the Among Us hype train a little bit. You were eager to play right from the beginning.
I was a pioneer, yeah.
And
back in July.
You still haven't touched it, and I've seen you become more and more disheveled and depressed about this. It's a sad sight to see, Heath. Yeah, I'm sorry. Organizing our friend group we haven't been able to make it happen.
I need another pandemic.
You need the second wave to hit.
I need COVID-20.
Here's what dampens my enthusiasm about playing Among Us, Heath. This is coming from a totally uninformed opinion. I haven't touched the game. I'm sure I would have fun with it, but we play some board games. We've literally played hundreds of games of The Resistance. We've played a bunch of Coup and Spyfall and some Secret Hitler too. The social deduction genre of video game is well worn for us. We know it like the back of our hands. I can't help but wonder, is Among Us just blowing up with video game players because this is like a fresh taste of this whole new type of game to them, which would seem like trite to us, something we've seen a million times already? That's my fear, that it's nothing really that special, just familiar mechanics we've seen a million times, just adapted into video game format.
It's more than that.
Okay.
It wouldn't seem trite.
Because there are the real-time aspects to the game.
There's the real-time aspects, and what you do with your time is much more engaging than in Resistance and Coup. Because what are the decisions that you make? Is maybe
voting on teams,
who to put sus on, when to sleep on votes, and creative ways to cast blame.
Sure.
It could not be more up to interpretation in Among Us. If you get cast as the imposter, you have to generate your own alibi. Otherwise, you'll get voted out. In Resistance, if I'm a spy, all I got to do is just be like, this person's a spy, not me. I'm simplifying, but,
sure.
But by comparison, Among Us is like a much more...
There are more concrete facts to go on?
There's so much more to do.
Okay.
I feel like it'd be so much fun to be an imposter, set up your own little alibi, vent over to the other corner of the map, get a kill, vent back, and then make sure you cross the sensors in the center of the map so that you're accounted for on the logs.
Oh.
Making sure that you turn on the lights so everyone's vision cones are dampened. It's just so more built out, and I'm hoping that with the updates that will surely come on the heels of Among Us 2's cancellation, it will add some sort of gameplay element that will help you reconsider.
I still would like to at least try it to either confirm or dismiss my qualms with it.
Yeah, so that was bad news that will hopefully lead to good news in the form of me playing this game.
Yeah. Moving on, I've got a news. We gave Microsoft a lot of time on this news segment. Time to give Sony their due. And what I'm calling the Sony PlayStation Roundup. This is just a catch-all for a bunch of Sony news that happened that maybe didn't warrant its full coverage, but together they kind of paint a cool picture. Heath.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think of what you're talking about.
I've got 3 things for you. In a month and a half, we'll be getting these new consoles. One of those launch games is Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Yes.
And it was just recently announced this brand new PS5 game is, it's actually a PS4 game as well. It is launching on the PlayStation 4. It is both platforms, which is not totally unexpected, right? It's using like a lot of the same assets from that PS4 Spider-Man game.
Same engine, yep.
But what kind of flew under the radar a little bit is also that new Sackboy: A Big Adventure game that was a PS5 launch game. That's a PS4 game as well.
Oh.
And most surprisingly, the graphical showcase that is Horizon Forbidden West, the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, which is coming next year. It's far way out. That's a PS4 game too.
Oh, well into the PS5's life cycle.
Well into the life cycle.
Oh.
Which is baffling, considering of all the console manufacturers, Sony's the one who has released the most rhetoric around, we believe in segmented console generations. We think exclusives should really justify creating a new machine.
Yeah.
But they're having this like half-assed approach all of a sudden, which if there was any game that I thought would be like a showcase for only being able to run on the newest generation of consoles, that would have been Horizon Forbidden West. But evidently, that's just not the case, which from some perspectives is kind of disappointing. Just like, I guess this game is going to have to be somewhat compromised, right? To get it to run on old hardware.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a bummer. While we're on the subject of Spider-Man, There was that 2018 Marvel Spider-Man game. I played it last year. That's getting a cool remaster for the next generation.
Oh.
It's a little scummy.
A remaster or like a port with some polish?
In reality, it's going to be a port with some polish. The verbiage they're using around it is remaster, which why are you remastering a 2-year-old game, Sony? But most baffling of all, I guess there's two things that are baffling. The only way to get it is to pre-order the super pricey edition of Miles Morales, which I'm assuming eventually it'll be sold a la carte, but at least for the time being, you've got to pony up big money for Miles Morales to get this remaster of the original game. Weirdest of all, they've changed Peter Parker's face for the remaster.
Oh, it's no longer Yuri Lowenthal?
He is still the voice actor. The live motion capture actor they've used for Peter Parker's face has been cut, and they found a replacement. It gets weirder when I read you their justification.
Is it a Tom Holland lookalike?
He does look a little bit more like Tom Holland. He looks younger. There are side-by-side comparisons. I do not like this new face.
Oh, wait. Should I cue it up?
You should get some thoughts on this, Heath.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
There you go. Okay, so he's a little more boy. Ooh. Okay, wait. Okay. The hair's a little bit nicer, too. Oh, okay. All right. The old Peter was much more expressive.
Yeah.
The new Peter...
He doesn't have any wrinkles on his face.
Is very smooth.
Yeah, very smooth, very mannequin looking. And it's in the remaster.
Oh, this was a step back.
I mean, to be fair, this is kind of a subjective thing, but I can't imagine the headspace you'd have to be in to prefer this new rendition. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
They like Mass Effect Andromeda'd him. Old Peter
was totally fine.
OG Peter, now that I look at it more closely, fits better.
Yeah. Also, maybe this is a temporary issue. I feel like the voice acting doesn't quite line up as well animation-wise with the new face. Maybe it's like a rushed job. I don't see any upsides.
The hair is an upside, actually.
Okay, the hair. Wait, let me find the justification for you.
And I will read comments. Oh my God. Why did they remove the details from his face? It now looks like he's from Polar Express. Dead on. He looks like the boy from Polar Express.
Here is the official word from Sony about why they came to this decision.
Why, Sony?
In order to bring the best performances to players with our next generation Marvel's Spider-Man games, we have recast the face of Peter Parker. We loved working with John Bubniak on the original game. However, to get a better match to Peter Parker / Spider-Man's actor, Yuri Lowenthal's facial capture, we have cast Ben Jordan to be the face model for Peter Parker on the PS5 console. He looks incredible in-game, and Yuri's moving performance takes on a whole new life. So the baffling thing about this is, their justification is they chose a face that would look more like the voice actor's face. My question is, why do you need to do that, first of all?
Yeah.
The voice actor isn't the character. Second of all, why not just use the voice actor's face? Jesus. This doesn't make any sense.
I'm baffled too. I feel like that PR statement is exactly that, just covering for something else.
Yeah, maybe they couldn't get a hold of the original actor for the sequels. Maybe they thought this slightly more Tom Holland-looking guy would sell more copies. I don't know what the real reason is.
He is very boyish.
Right. And part of the appeal of this version of Spider-Man Insomniac has created is he's a more mature Spider-Man. I think he's in his mid-20s. This is not an origin story. To suddenly make him look like he's a prepubescent will totally take me out of the immersion.
Yeah.
I don't like anything about... I almost feel like
so this game will come out only on the PlayStation platforms?
Yeah.
Not on PC? So I can't mod the old actor back?
A PC version has not been announced.
Okay.
So that was Part 2 of the Sony Roundup segment I have. Final part here. We talked last episode about this new PS Plus collection little value add.
Yeah, I was impressed by it.
That Sony's doing, making their PS Plus subscribers immediately get a bunch of like classic PS4 games, be it Bloodborne or Persona 5, for free, at no additional cost, I should say, for current subscribers. And Jim Ryan, the head of PlayStation, I don't know what his official job title is, he was interviewed after that announcement by GameIndustry.biz, asking him, is this a sign of things to come? Do you see yourself maybe fleshing this out to be a more one-to-one competitor with Microsoft Game Pass to try to jump in on that kind of market?
What did he say?
In response to that, Jim Ryan had the quote, "We want to make the games bigger and better and hopefully at some stage more persistent. So putting those into a subscription model on day one for us just doesn't make any sense. For others in a different situation, it might well make sense, but for us it doesn't. We want to expand and grow our existing ecosystem, and putting new games into a subscription model just doesn't sit with that." He goes on to call these kind of subscription models to selling games unsustainable in the long term.
Which is probably true.
Which I guess if we evaluate on face value as being kind of true, kind of draws this big question mark where the central pillar of Microsoft's entire strategy is that subscription model. To have your central pillar be unsustainable in the long term, that doesn't seem good. I've also, in a podcast interview with a Xbox exec, he kind of flat out said that Game Pass currently isn't profitable. It's like a loss-leading thing to get people in. If you think about just the basic math that goes into the value proposition of Game Pass, it would very immediately seem like Microsoft is losing money on it. It's $10 a month. For a whole year, that would be $120 to be a Game Pass subscriber. That's the equivalent of buying 2 brand new games at launch, or it used to be until the price goes up. If you just play 3 games a year or more, Game Pass is a better deal for you. Microsoft will make less money from you if you just go with the Game Pass route, which seemingly, if you're a gamer in any capacity, playing 3 games is a pretty low threshold to clear.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla,
the new Call of Duty, and one of the annual sports franchises. And then you've already hit that 3 threshold. So they've kind of gave you a way to pay less to get a lot more. How are they making their money exactly? And I guess
market share.
What does that mean, though?
I feel like, isn't YouTube also loss leading?
Probably not anymore, right? Eventually, the goal is to make money, yes?
Okay, then is Amazon loss leading?
I think all these examples are like companies that launched loss leading.
Okay.
And then eventually got the install base to justify the costs, which I guess in theory, maybe that's what Game Pass is going for. Maybe they're hoping to eventually build up that install base large enough to sustain it. And these are just the hard years where they're not quite meeting that threshold. But I feel like there are ways from getting there. I don't know this for sure. Maybe Microsoft's like a drug dealer. They get everyone hooked on this cheap, affordable Game Pass service. And then once they can't envision life without it, they ratchet up the monthly rate. And that's how it makes its money.
Hey, kids, come and try some of this xCloud.
Yeah.
Which also sounds like a drug.
It gives me pause to see Microsoft doubling and tripling down, literally buying 8 new studios to immediately put all of their games directly on Game Pass for free.
Yep.
To see that business model be called unsustainable by their direct competitor, I don't know. Maybe Microsoft's in trouble. We keep calling it like the best value in gaming.
It is. Yeah.
But that's for us.
For consumers.
How long can that last, I guess, is the question that keeps me up at night.
It shouldn't. You should be spending all that time up at night playing these games on the cheap.
I guess so. Well, while the getting's good.
I have 2 coupons for the Epic Game Store that expire this month.
Okay.
So I'll be spending my money there.
Gotcha.
But if I wasn't, I'd be getting this Game Pass.
Sure. So that was just the last thing. Sony calling that kind of subscription-based model to gaming unsustainable, and how their competitor is basically doing everything they're not doing. It's funny. That's all the news I had.
All right. So we're taking a break.
Taking a break. And when we return, we'll do a quick check-in on our fantasy publisher draft. See you then.
That thing about 13 Sentinels.
Yeah? What was that?
That was just...
I mean, I know the game, but...
Of course you do, because it's like a high school sim with real-time strategy.
Yes, by Vanillaware.
I was told it is the horniest game, but also the best story
Yeah.
in media.
Yeah, so it's the Nier Automata situation,
Okay.
where you have a scantily clad French maid-dressed protagonist, and it's also
the
like...
smuttiness is there, but it's
the
also...
most fourth wall-breaking meta-narrative I've ever experienced.
Okay.
And then this is, from what I've heard on podcasts and stuff, this is going to be more of that.
Okay, but on top of that, it's like a cool real-time strategy with a sci-fi time travel story that is beyond compare.
Okay.
According to my sources.
Your sources?
Yeah.
Who are these sources?
This is the Castle Super Beast.
Okay.
They said that this story is the best story in video games and the best story ever.
Well,
and so I couldn't help but be like, would I like this game? And a cursory glance said no.
But it is, if you look up Chris
like
game
this
in the
game.
dictionary,
Yeah.
there'd be a big old fat picture of this game.
You tell me whether or not this story is all that it is cracked up to be, or if that was hyperbole.
I'll tell you whether or not you should read the Wikipedia plot synopsis.
Well, that I was afraid to do so because it's like the nature of the story is like it's easy to spoil, but it's hard to spoil because you could read something and not know whether or not it was
important.
It was a spoiler.
Okay. Funny.
All right. I've made substantial gains.
Scroll on down, Heath.
Damn.
All right. So this is the third quarter of 2020 just ended. We're going to do a quick check-in on Heath and I's competition, the Fantasy Publisher Draft. This is where the fantasy publisher I made, Quintessential Chris Games,
and the publisher I made, Heath,
are squaring off to have released the most critically acclaimed games over the course of 2020, according to OpenCritic.
So far, Chris only has 3 games that have yet to either come out or be canceled.
Right. Yes. I'm only waiting on 3. You are waiting on many more. How many, Heath?
At most 12.
Gotcha. So based on that, and in total, our rosters both encompass 20 games. The current score standings, as you might imagine, there's a bit of a disparity based on how many games I have versus Heath. I have 211.
And I have 46.
Fantasy points. So, Heath, you continue to be a slow releaser. The only games that have come out since we last touched this are Crusader Kings 3.
And Crash Bandicoot, the Insane something?
4. Crash Bandicoot 4.
It's about time.
And I need to award you props on 2 occasions, Heath. First of all, round of applause on picking up Crusader Kings 3.
Thank you. On the cheap.
That scored a 91 on OpenCritic, which is
my
great.
highest scoring game.
It is. And I just did not see the critics taking to grand strategy games.
I loved it.
I didn't anticipate that happening, but by all accounts, it's a fantastic game. Great job there.
And hats off to you. Hades performed just as well critics-wise, if not more.
Yes, it got a 93 on OpenCritic. Hades was a big winner for me. Other games that released, my list has had several updates. It's a tale of 2 cities, basically. I've got some real bangers and some real duds. So Hades and Spelunky are pulling their, Spelunky 2 that is, are pulling their weight for me. Big points.
Looks like it.
Unfortunately, I made many errors in my last drafting session. So Deathloop, gone, out of this year. I'm not getting any credit for it.
2021.
Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, gone, delayed immediately after I drafted it. Heath, this is the other instance I need to award you massive props. And I need your thoughts on this. You baited me so hard on NBA 2K21. So this is the annual basketball game.
Your only game in the negative. I tricked you into buying for $1.
So you put it up for auction for $1.
Yeah, and then
I was like, I can't let this fly. You can't get games for $1. That's absurd. So I anteed up $2 for it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, you seemed very relieved to have that off your plate.
I was like, oh, man.
And lo and behold, that game ended up scoring abysmally, a 68 on OpenCritic, earning me -2 points. It's actually subtracting from my score.
Was I aware that it was going to tank?
Was this intentional?
No.
What was with the sigh of relief when I outbid you by $1?
I don't recall a sigh of relief.
You seemed pretty happy about it.
Okay.
I think this is premeditated. That's what's going on in my head canon.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
And for that reason, bravo. Beautiful move. I never thought you'd get to that level of head games.
Outstanding. It's like a poker table.
So good job on that.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a lot of more games to release.
I got Assassin's Creed, and you got Call of Duty.
I've got Call of Duty.
Did you see the zombie trailer for Call of Duty?
I saw that it released. I haven't watched it.
It looks fun. Similar to Spider-Man, all of these games are getting recast. The Black Ops character from the OG is getting recast.
Gotcha. I also have Cyberpunk. And then Axiom Verge 2, I'm nervous about. I haven't heard any updates from that recently. I think it's a prime candidate for slipping out of this year.
Yeah, same goes for Windjammers 2. It's probably not.
You don't think so?
No.
I would be pleased with that because that's one of my counter picks.
Yeah, you would.
Other updates on Heath's list. Apparently, Lego, the Star Wars, the Skywalker saga, that was delayed out of this year.
Which probably was to my benefit.
What? The Lego games are good.
We can hope.
That was going to get you, at the very least, some positive points.
You know what's the next highest scoring game that's going to come out on my docket?
What do you think?
12 minutes.
Yeah?
12 minutes is going to crush with the critics.
That, like, time loop indie game.
The cast is phenomenal.
I heard the cast is, like, surprisingly stacked.
Yeah.
Here's where
What's your diagnosis?
My diagnosis here, Heath, is...
Oh, Silk Song.
I'm scared about Silk Song.
Please, Silky Boy.
That's another one where if it comes out, you're going to rake in the points. But
Halloween, give me some Hollow Knight.
We've heard no updates from this game. Team Cherry is radio silent.
Because they're clickety-clack, hard at work.
I could see that team doing a stealth release. Like
December 31st, midnight release.
Their fan base is so dialed in, they don't need to hype it up for months. They could drop it and the people will come. So I'm nervous, but all in all, I think my lead is going to prove insurmountable.
Yeah.
That's where my prediction lies. But we have, in this final month, Heath, you're going to release more games than you have all year long.
Yep.
On your publisher draft.
Yeah.
So a lot could happen. We really don't know what's going to happen.
The highest you could score is 30 points?
Per game? I think so. Yeah. That's like impossible to do, but.
Okay.
And I think that with that out of the way, it's going to be a wrap on Mobius Tubes, episode 51.
Yeah, thanks for watching, folks. And I recently, because I'm back to work, I'm doing a lot of driving. And so I too am listening to podcasts while I'm driving. This is my favorite show. Not to be narcissistic.
What kind of praise is that?
But I'm just finding other podcasts underwhelming. Granted, because revisionist history is not coming out as frequently.
Oh.
And as soon as No Such Thing as a Fish went to remote, their riffing on the facts has been kind of affected by their long distance Skyping in.
Sure.
And so the quality of my podcast entertainment has dipped low enough that this is now my favorite show. And I hope it's your favorite show. And if it's not, let us know how we can improve it.
Sure.
By going to
Mobius Tubes Podcast at gmail.com.
That's Mobius Tubes Podcast at gmail.com. I hope it is your favorite show. We put a lot into it.
I found one person on Reddit who said it was his favorite podcast.
Hey.
So we have at least one.
There you go.
You send us all your emails. We try to read them all. Coincidentally, it's been a dark age for the podcasts I listen to as well.
Yeah.
One of them like lost its main host, and it just hasn't been the same since. One changed its like the platform it was on, and then changed its structure of the show to a format I prefer less. Various things like that. Just all of them have taken a hit, but not us. We're doing things exactly the same.
We've only gotten more virile.
Great. That's what you need out of your podcasts, virility.
Yeah. So look forward to me being 25 and scoring huge points in the publisher draft, and some more spooky games from Chris, allegedly.
Yes, I have more spooky games coming. I also have a fun conversation we can really chew into next episode.
Oh, all right.
Think about the Experience Machine, but even more contentious.
No. Oh, okay.
That might be hyping it up too much.
Okay, more contentious. Wow. All right. That's the show.
That's the show. See you next time.